Team ban.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Premier League presentation. Going to be bringing you guys a game between Evil Geniuses and Fnatic here. Going to be seeing these two in the quarterfinals. Whoever's going to be winning this one will be going into the grand final versus Virtus Pro. The other going down to the third, fourth decider up against Roxka. So that'll be an interesting series to see. But for right now, we have this best of one between these two teams, and very, very aggressive playstyles. Some with some tendency to throw built in, just kind of in their blood. But it's going to be a very, very dynamic game no matter what. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I myself am Blaze, and here's Triumph. What's going on?
Yes, this should be a fun game indeed. Both teams can be incredibly unpredictable. Now, Tree being banned out first, along with a Wisp, I'm kind of expecting to see, well, maybe not. I mean, Fnatic do have the first pick. Often we see Batrider banned against EG just because Demon does enjoy playing that bat, and he does play a very mean bat indeed. But left on the board, they might grab it themselves. We'll see in a moment. EG, though, we'll see what they decide to grab it. I mean, that said, if you do let the opponent like grab a bat and then you just pick an OD against it, it's like, it's annoying. But at the same time, bat's flexible. So you get a bad matchup, you can say, all right, well, actually, you're going to go in the offlane now and farm that, or you're going to go in the jungle and just farm that instead. So he's always got options available to him. But Fnatic with the first pick, the much coveted first pick, last pick for their draft at the moment. Blaze, I don't know. We've got a few heroes on the board here. Got any ideas what we might see first?
It's really hard to say. I mean, they love to play different things very, very early on. Especially like Fnatic's supportive lineup is very diverse from game to game. I wouldn't have been surprised to see something like a Chen first pick, possibly, if they really, really wanted to put their emphasis on pushing. But in this sense, picking up the Keeper of Light, it's a great all-around hero as long as you can get the setup. Luckily, there's no way Evil Geniuses would want to pick up all three. I mean, even if they could, they wouldn't really want to draft a team that involved a Bane and a Shadow Demon, or a Shadow Demon and a Rubik. So even if Evil Geniuses picks up one of those three, they still have something to work well with the Keeper of Light. So it's an interesting first pick. It's not a drafting style that we see very often, but still, because they can kind of steal the deal with that second one in counter to what Evil Geniuses brings, they can decide, okay, well, do you have a big ultimate and we want to steal that with Rubik, or do you have a carry that we need to slow down and make sure that he can't stay on target? Right now with the Magnus, I assume Rubik is going to be the pickup for Fnatic.
And they also grab up the anti-mage as well. I mean, Keeper of Light works with just about anybody. He brings a modicum of split pushing to the table and also counter push as well. And at the same time, you throw him in a lane with anything from cancel lands. Anybody. They like everybody likes mana. So just about anybody can throw him in there and just spam spells all day. And if you can get aggressive with nukes, it just really opens up a lot of lanes for you just because you can force your opponents back out of the lane. Shadow Demon being picked up. So it looks like Fnatic are just going to grab their initial core support heroes. That said, should mention that Shadow Demon does do particularly well against anti-mage. It is a bit of a headache for him just because you start getting slapped around by your own illusions. It's pretty frustrating. And also, of course, the damage amp as well is always fantastic. And if he blinks in and suddenly gets hit by Purge, geez, he's not going anywhere in a hurry. OD, though, being grabbed up by EG. And I think it's a solid ban. Even if they were going to run Magnus in the offlane and say pick up something like a Puck for the mid, just having the OD banned out is a smart move, because if you want to put Magnus mid, OD is going to just wreck him, absolutely and utterly, completely wreck him. So I think a solid ban from them there, and it is something that would fit right into Fnatic's lineup right now.
Yeah. I think when they pushed the Shadow Demon forward, they were kind of making a statement that they're more interested in obtaining Anti-Mage's illusions rather than obtaining reverse polarities. Because under ideal circumstances, that's pretty much the difference between the heroes there. I mean, yes, there's a little innate differences back and forth, like Null Field and Fade Bolt, and has different mechanics compared to like Soul Catcher and Shadow Poison. But at the end of the day, setup supports, they're right here. These two are about their ultimates, and Shadow Demon getting the Purge on a melee carry and also getting the illusion stolen from Anti-Mage compared to that of the Spell Steal Reverse Polarity. Essentially, they're saying that they're not too worried about the Magnus locking them down in that regard, and they want to just play it out the way they intend to with the Shadow Demon. So right now, what that also opens the door for is Fnatic could just ban out supports for these two. They've already taken out the Chen, just in case Beatiz wants to look into that one, and they can take out another Beatiz hero and be better off for it because they've already secured their support. They actually, interestingly enough, take out the Lich, which could be considered both a support and an offlaner.
Yeah, I think a few teams, like, it's sort of, a few people have been experimenting with him in the offlane. I think it's viable. It's got some potential. I'm interested in seeing how it develops. And in terms of ban, like Rubik, definitely really good against Magnus, but it's less reliable than just picking Shadow Demon to dick with Anti-Mage. Like, it's really easy to just pick Anti-Mage and dick, pick Shadow Demon and dick with Anti-Mage. That's dead easy. On the other hand, stealing a reverse polarity, that's hard. That's actually pretty difficult, and it requires split timing and really good positioning, and it's less reliable. And the initial RP might even just be enough. And I mean, you might steal the RP, but then you've got to get in close to use it as well. Sure. Once again, so you've actually got to get positioned to let it rip. So not always going to happen. So I do appreciate the Shadow Demon pick. Also, as far as laning combinations go, setting up big Illuminates with obviously the disruption is pretty painful as well. But we'll see what he actually. I mean, for all we know, this could be a side lane Magnus, and it may actually be something else for the solo mid. But we'll see what EG have in plan here. Should also mention that Naix has been banned out as well, so we won't be seeing that either. But Fnatic, I mean, they like their split pushing. We'll see if they decide to go with something else that might fit it. I mean, if they wanted to, they could throw in a Nature's Prophet as well, which would also help. Because, I mean, one of the things Anti-Mage does, if he team's under a lot of pressure, he just says, you know what, screw this, I'm going to split push. And once he gets the Battle Fury, he can push pretty quickly. Having the Nature's Prophet means they can always have somebody move around to counter his sort of pushing. So I wouldn't mind seeing that get picked up. And with Keep Light, they've also got some decent counter push. So if EG try to get aggressive early, which they're probably not because they've got the AM, they've always got the big Illuminates to try and hold them off.
Yep. So, I mean, that's definitely a way that they can make it work in their favor as far as that timing goes. Now, people might wonder why Anti-Mage was such a priority for Evil Geniuses in this draft. Not only do they like this hero a lot, to just get him a lot of farm and send him out to do his thing, but also it's really important to get a carry that has Manta style in his common item pickup if you're going to go up against Keeper Light. Otherwise, Blinding Light is going to render your right clicks useless, and that's going to be a very limiting factor. So picking up a Manta or a BKB early is very, very important up against a Coddle, and Anti-Mage fits the build very well with that Manta. So it'll work out nicely for them in that regard. As far as supports to counter out the Keeper Light, I was actually going to mention both of these. Visage is just really, really good because there's going to be a lot of damage flying back and forth, and even damage that you receive can be assumed into your soul assumption to throw right back at the other opponents. But also, along with that, the Nyx Assassin, carapacing up and Illuminate. So not only is Visage going to be taking a ton of damage, is going to be sending out a lot of damage with that assumption, possibly onto the Coddle, but Ezreal, if he's not careful, is going to be hitting himself with the Illuminate just as well because of the Spike Carapace. So Nyx and Visage is pretty much a Keeper Light's worst nightmare, and they have to be very, very cautious about how they proceed from there if Evil Geniuses try to go for the try versus try.
Yeah, I like how you bring that up because they could actually pretty much insta-give Keeper Light. He tries to Illuminate. Nyx just having the Soul Assumption as well. That's, especially with Keeper Light having one of the lowest base strengths in the game. He's easy food. And I would almost say right now, Anti-Mage, if it's DK mid, they could well just say, you know what, let's put Anti-Mage mid. Put Anti-Mage or even Magnus in the mid as well. And then just throw him in the side lane. Throw somebody in the safe lane, have him farm there. And then, yeah, then aggressive tri lane would do a very powerful job of shutting down Keeper.
Yeah.
So we'll see what they've got in mind.
I haven't seen an Anti-Mage mid in a long time. I mean, he's got rune control and blink, but in general, I don't know. I always see, if they're going to run this Anti-Mage solo at all, I always see it in the safe lane, maybe like up against a Darkseer or something like that. I don't very commonly see it in the mid, but it would not be bad against Dragon Knight. You're absolutely correct there. It's just kind of a interesting way to look at it. Either way, the Weaver will come on through and be perfect for their tri lane. Shadow Demon, Keeper Light, and Weaver are going to be very, very scary. But yeah, the question is, does Fnatic want to actually contest and go for the try versus try, or are they going to try to avoid it? Either way, Evil Geniuses are going to be... It really depends on the last pick. If they don't pick up another carry, Evil Geniuses are going to go for defensive try. Just make sure that Anti-Mage gets farm. If they go for another core hero, you can guarantee they're going to have a lot of pressure going down that bot lane.
Come on, Meepo. Roll the dice here, Fnatic. Let's see it. Let's see that Meepo. Why not? Solo mid Meepo. It's been a fake out. Dragon Knight's going into the defensive try. Weaver's going off lane, and it's a Meepo mid. You know what's coming. We'll see. But EG, their final pick here, I think they're looking for some kind of big AoE nuke because they've got the team fight from Magnus,
yeah,
but they need the follow-up. Because, of course, with the damage reduction on RP, he's not as... He can't insta-give a team on his own as he used to. Just sort of explode and... Alright, well, no, they're going against that, so they're going to be going for the late game. I mean, they don't really have the firepower to push for early towers. They don't have the team fight to really take a 5v5 early on that easily. So, I guess, they're just going to have to defend. And this worries me a little bit because, sure, they've got the early RPs for team fight, but they just don't... It's not like they've got a Queen of Pain who you get RP and then everybody just dies. because she jumps in and nukes everybody. Clockwork, he can jump in, he can initiate, he can do stuff, but he doesn't have that huge burst damage potential, and the high damage he does do all goes onto a single target. Now, Mirana is the last pick. An interesting choice. This facilitates early firepower, and disruption arrows are very easy to land comparatively, but I am bothered that Mirana is a hero who has issues. She wants to last hit, like she needs to farm, but her attack animation, the animation is good, but she's a high maintenance hero. She has a huge it's a 0.7 second backswing. It's like the biggest backswing in the game. It's even bigger than Crystal Maiden, I think. And also, she has one of the lowest base damages in the game. It's like barely, it's only like, I think like 5-6 points higher than Techie's. It's not very high at all in comparison. It's not very good at all. And on top of that, her projectile speed is also, again, the lowest in the game. It's only 900. And it's as slow as Crystal Maiden. And it's not good. You know, it's hard to farm with her. She's got mana issues. She wants to gank early on, but she also needs levels badly. So if you stick her in a tri-lane, suddenly she's got level issues as well on top of mana issues. And she is very reliant on Starfall in terms of farming early on. And to boot, she has item issues too. Like, she's got so many items she wants to get, but she's squishy. She needs damage. She needs attack speed because her ability gain isn't that good, and she needs to fix mana again. It's just, and she needs defensive items. It's a complete and utter mind-boggling problem. And then on top of that, her arrow. I mean, I could rant for days on Mirana. Her arrow has been nerfed in Dota. Why is it noisy as shit? You can hear this like a bus honking in the in the distance. You can hear this thing from a mile off. And on top of that, it's like it's got high beams on. It's bright blue. It's not the Dota 1 arrow, which was A, quiet, and B, brown and blended in the ground. You just got hit out of nowhere by it.
Yeah. Well,
I'm sorry I'm ranting, but Ice Fraud, goddammit, fixed this hero. It's one of my favorites, and you've ruined it.
I can understand what you're saying, but there are a couple things to mention. Of course, they did recently change the Dota 2 profile of it, so it is a little bit less visible. I think it still has the same audio issue, but...
Got to be blind to not see it.
Anyways,
so
on top of that, they did add damage for distance, so if you do get some really good setup on a disruption into an arrow, it's going to be a really, really big deal. And in general, for what she's lacking in those early game stats and those weaknesses she has to make up for, she is providing a lot of hardcore utility. You're going to be forcing EG to buy detection for her Moonlight Shadow, and I think most importantly, providing a much-needed lockdown up against Fear. I mean, if you get a disruption and an arrow on Anti-Mage in the middle of a team fight, you get 2 Anti-Mages, they get 0 for that full duration of the arrow, and that's just incredibly game-changing as far as how those fights break down. An interesting thing about the laning situation for both teams is essentially they come down to the same decision. Jo is definitely going to be taking the mid Magnus, and Hani is definitely going to be taking the mid Dragonite. But from there, either they can go ahead and just set out somebody in the offlane, send Clockwork on the offlane, send Weaver in the offlane, and say, okay, do your thing. Or they can tri-lane these heroes and actually get a lot of potential out of them individually just by going for those different matchups. Now, it looks like it is going to be a try versus try top, just from how their current positioning is, but that's not the easiest way to judge it, as it doesn't take but a few seconds for No Tail and Fly to rotate back bottom. So we'll see, based on how the initial clash goes, where they actually want to set their roots.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, Mirana's still a decent hero. She's just an incredibly aggravating hero. Like, she's good, but there are so many issues you have to work with, so if things go wrong, it's difficult to get back in there. That said, of course, the detection is going to be nice. I mean, you can pretty much set up Dragon Knight ganks. The problem is, of course, with Moonlight Shadow it's got, again, a couple of issues. We'll go into that, though, we'll go into that in a second, though, because it looks like we might have a bit of a clash in a moment. Error, they're going to move forward there. Will they see Error? He hasn't skilled anything yet, so, I mean, if he gets jumped, he'll actually quickly skill leap and jump the hell out of there, but it looks like the tri-lane up on the top, EG are just going to back out, make sure they don't get caught out, and the 5-man sweep here. I mean, they're not really looking for kills. They're just trying to get their wards down for the moment. And if they find a kill, sure, it's great. Nobody here is actually... I don't think anybody except Keeper has actually skilled anything. Everyone else is just sitting on the skills waiting to see what they're going to go up against before they commit. But Moonlight Shadow, it's got a couple of issues. Unlike a Smoke, you can't just have 2 heroes disappear. Everybody's got to get off the map. And if everybody goes off the map, it's like, oh, hello, we're smoke ganking. Hello, there's a gank coming, as it looks like No Tail is actually about to
Arrow
die.
is skilled, going on Fear, will
wow.
connect, as well as an Illuminate. A lot of damage coming out through. He still will be able to blink away from this, but copping a lot of damage, already forcing out the salve. Luckily, he does have that poor man shield to keep him up and kicking. Still, regenerating that up immediately, a single clarity, and they're going to block off the pole once again. Now, there is still Sentry available. There should be up on the Nyx. Actually going to go in deep on No Tail, doing a lot of right-click damage very, very quickly. No mana break, but it's enough to get the first blood here on Beatus. and force Era back as well.
And that was a bait and a half there. It was a really smart bait from NoTal. Unfortunately, it's backfiring there as they stayed for a second too long to get that D ward off. But yeah, as I was talking about Moonlight Shadow, like you've got to get everybody off the map, like out of line of sight. And if everybody disappears off the map at a high tier game, someone just says, guys, everybody's missing, and everybody, and then your team goes into defensive posture and they're hard to gank. On top of that, at the same time, it's also, you've got to get it at levels, you've got to get it fairly early on, and it's a skill point Mirana almost doesn't want to spend because she wants to max up Arrow, she wants to max out Starstorm, she also really wants to get levels in Leap because a low level Leap is not fantastic either. She really wants to level that up, so again it's costly, and when you're sort of in a trialing position and you're lacking levels, it's a pretty big investment.
Yeah. So as far as the other lanes go, we are going to be seeing that, actually I think there's a clash up top. It's going to be Fear to almost drop down, just barely blinks on out of that. Man, that's a lot of damage coming in, but Era not far enough back for the arrow.
Sat there for 2 auto attacks. That was weird. It was like, I swear he must have been lagging there because he sat there for 2 auto attacks. We should mention this is a US server. If memory serves me correctly, Fnatic said, you know what, let's just play US East.
Yep. As far as bottom lane goes, though, there is going to be Trixie just going and doing his thing. Shikuchi, right clicks, and with this early Basilius, soon to be Aquila, and the regen, I believe, was pulled to him. Yeah, he has just been able to run rampant and force back Clockwork. Some good cog play, but I don't think any of them have connected just yet, so although it's forced Weaver back, unless you can drain Weaver's mana down to 0, he's still going to be a major threat, and we see that here as he just, because Clockwork was so far forward in the lane, all you have to do is just keep on Shikuchiing and right-clicking, and the cog cooldown means you're dead.
It looks, yeah, he is going to be definitely quite a scary hero in the mid game. That said, JR, he's got his bottle now, and he's also got his bottle as well. So we'll see what they can work out here.
Yeah.
EG though, going to be working that top lane still. I mean, the mid game is going to be scary. Like, obviously, the mid game, once Mirana gets her ult up, it's going to be somewhat scary. They're going to have to watch out for those initiations, have the wards up. But I think that's something that EG are going to manage in this case because they're going to have a fairly decent position where their support should be able to pick up some farm eventually. Although maybe not, actually, because EG, they're struggling to find a room because Animage's in so much trouble. Here we go, have another arrow tossed out there. Nicely timed there. However, they immediately walk in and cover him. They've got the stuns coming out there. They can put some pressure, like, pretty much here. I don't think they're going to kill Animage. They're going to put a lot of pressure on him, but they're just going to keep pulling him regen. Like, he's running out of regen, but I'm pretty sure someone's going to give him some in a minute and get him healed up. Actually, no, he's going to back off.
Yeah.
Alright, no, this is working out. I mean, this is forcing it. He's not getting much farm. He's actually going to walk all the way back to base. Yeah. Wow.
The one big thing with it is he skilled up mana break to rank 1, and with that, he is out of mana. There's no blinks left available, so they can pile all the stuff they want into him, but if you can't blink out of a bad spot, that's still going to be enough for them to bring him 100 to 0, and yeah, although Bambo had the right idea, going for the Carapace in front of the arrow, couldn't get in the position fast enough, and that, yeah, results in Fear just taking so much harassment, which is actually much needed, because Era has 63 damage right now. Before his Basilius, Mirana was underneath 50. So Era was barely doing any right-click damage, comparatively speaking, and if they had even opportunities on the lane, it would have been just atrocious for Mirana to be able to manage it. But now, pulling ahead in CS.
The fact that he's got a poor man's shield as well.
Yeah.
So little damage. I feel like, I'm glad you mentioned the mana break. That is such a poor decision from Fear. He's up against a Shadow. Like, normally it's okay, but when you're factoring like 3 to 4 second stuns from Mirana, that's a really bad decision. That said, they're going to try and jump in on Fly. Fly taking a lot of damage here. There's the defensive disruption. NoTal. Starfall comes out. Carapace are hitting Arrow in the head, and it looks like they will manage to pick up a kill here. Keep the light going down, and in fact, they might even know he leaps away to safety there. NoTal, though, might suffer a bit of damage, though. Damn. Gets hit a couple of times. Oh, wait a minute. No, that's Mirana popping the potion. I was about to say, jumps in. Fear. No fear at all. Jumps in against Mirana. The creep, though, fortunately going to block a retaliatory arrow. He won't be able to get the angle to shoot that off. Had he managed to land an arrow there, that would have been devastating. Yeah, it was very, very aggressive, but it got rid of the salve. 400 HP. I mean, it was not even half done, so that's an extra, essentially 200 pure damage that you just did to him because you negated that healing. So that was actually a pretty good move by him, and he tangos back up. He can tank some harassment there, but one thing to mention, of course, is Nyx did die to auto attacks with Soul Catcher. He just took too much, and so it was in the end a 1-for-1. But I feel like EG is exhausting a lot of resources each and every time they go in like that. They can do it occasionally, but now that Fly is moving in towards his level 3, level 4, he's going to be able to get Chakra Magic up, and honestly, Fnatic can just keep on doing this all day long. Actually going for another disruption, but there's creeps in the way. The arrow is not going to be a very good option here. Instead, he actually might be dropped down. They're going to be able to leap on out of that impale. So the Soul Storms are going to go out in no tail. He throws back a
Soul Catcher the other direction. But no blood spilled just yet, just a little bit of damage back and forth.
I like the point you bring up here, the fact that they're expending a lot of resources. Sure, they're not getting a ton of farm on Mirana here, but I think this is sort of... it's a bait. Like, Mirana, Era is usually their carry, but in this case, he's not really. What they're doing here is they're just trying to slow down Anti-Mage, and it's working. Fear only has 14 CS. Meanwhile, opposite side of the map, Weaver is going to be getting, like, Trixie is going to be getting all the farm he wants. This buys a lot of time for him to get ahead of the Anti-Mage, and I think this is what they're going for. EG, like, they're going to be fairly vulnerable at the 25 to 30 minute mark. That's when they're going to be in a lot of trouble, because Anti-Mage will be a little bit behind, and like we mentioned before, they don't have great team fight potential. Whereas on the other hand, we have Keep It Alive, we've got Shadow Demon, we've got Mirana, we've got Dragon Knight. There's going to be a lot of pushing. Meanwhile, though, it looks like gank in the top lane. It doesn't quite. Carapace comes out in time, and Keeper takes a massive hit. They will pick off Bambo, though, but Keeper falls in return, and Arrow's going to have to leap out of trouble.
Yeah, they're going to lose two supports here. No Tail going to get locked down by BDiz. That was a terrible decision. The Carapace, you cannot initiate like that unless it's 100% perfect. You cannot initiate on a Nyx Assassin like that. Disruption into the Arrow and the Illuminate. He Carapaced them both. They just got shredded by their own spells, and the Anti-Mage and the Visage were able to easily turn around. Sure, they got the kill, but they lost a lot that they didn't have to give away. Now, if Arrow is, I believe it's the same as in Dota 1, where if the Arrow is literally on top of the target when he comes out of Disruption, there's zero time to do anything, and you just get stunned out of it. But the timing was not perfect as it needed to be, and as such, it got turned around on them pretty hard.
Depends on. I think you're right there. Possibly might have something to do, because I'm like, if you're taking AOE damage and you can still blink out of it. If you phase shift and blink, you can still get out somehow. Yeah. There may be, like, doing with game frames in terms of taking damage. There may be a possibility of popping it off in time, but there maybe not actually, because it's not instantaneous, or is it? I don't know. That's one of the things I haven't looked up.
Yeah, we do have hookshot potential on mid, but Jo cannot get the RP. Skeward actually set it up, so I don't think they're going to go for it here. It's actually an interesting thing to discuss. For those that didn't play Dota 1, all of the spells in Dota 1 are coded very, very uniquely. We're actually going to see that RP. The hookshot's going to come on in. Hani will be locked down here because the battery assault's going to do too much damage. He does get a Dragon Tail stun on Demon. With the bottle, he might be able to turn this around entirely. There's the Flame Breath. There is enough damage, and there's an Illuminate. Not finishing off Jo here, but getting two ultimates expended on him and still getting a kill in return. Certainly a trade he's happy to make. Really, really nice there.
This is what worries me. They don't have any damage. Like Dragon Knight going into the mid game, especially once a mech is up and running or a pipe, how are they going to kill this guy? This is going to be so hard to get rid of him. They're going to have to throw so much firepower at him. Weaver's just going to run rampant. There's going to be nobody to stop Weaver.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a big deal for them, the lack of team fight potential.
Yeah, I mean, with the Dragon's Blood providing just so much effective HP, it's actually going to be extremely difficult for them to do anything. Even with, like, a Vendetta coming in to initiate, it's going to be a tiny, tiny chunk of his HP. And so they have the disables, but the damage follow-up isn't really there. The Arrow is going to thread the needle here, and unfortunately just hit a neutral creep. No Tail is blocked off, 100%. No way for him to get on out of there, unfortunately. And Era is probably going to have to leap away. Actually, indecisive here, almost cost him. And he loses a lot of HP as a result.
Nyx had thrown out the stun there. They could have potentially killed him.
He can leap it, though, so you can generally dodge that out. The Impale projectile time.
That's true. That's definitely true. Looks at the port up top, though. They've come back. No Tail, I mean, a bit of a glutton for punishment has returned. Throwing down the counter ward there. They're just looking to try and see if they had vision, which they sort of do. However, they've got a fairly unorthodox ward over there giving them vision instead. So they knew the vision's there. They just couldn't find it.
This is interesting, because now the top lane doesn't feel as secure because there's so much support roaming. Like, it's really just No Tail and Era here. But that's one advantage of having Mirana, is she can transition from a farming role to an offlane role, just by knowing who's nearby. If your supports aren't nearby, just play it safe, barely get an experience range at best, and then you can always leap out of danger. And that allows your Shadow Demon, your Keeper Light, to go and roam out across the map to different areas, and that can obviously put more pressure across the board, which is exactly what they're trying to do. But when they do get the supports up here, of course they will accomplish more, and that's generally what they need to be focusing on if they want to keep this AM shut down.
Yeah, I mean, they want to get this tower. If they can get this tower fairly soon, because Dragon Knight does have his 6, I think they're mostly worried about getting jump on RP in the middle of that up there, that close in. But if they can get down this tower, once they get rid of the tier 1, they can start invading the jungle. Once they invade the jungle, that's where all the pressure comes in. This Demon almost gets picked off down in the bottom lane. The support's rotating in there to cause Grim. I heard a hook shot.
He hooked to his own illusion. He blocked himself. Like, that would have been an easy solo kill. Hani would not have been able to get in range for the Dragon Tail. Actually, the Shockwave almost finishes off Fly right there. And now Trixie should be able to finish off what he started. Cogs are on cooldown. Gemini attack going to come on through. But here's Fear to prevent him from Shukuchiing. And that is not going to be enough for him to get away easily. Like, Fear won't be able to chase him down. But he certainly didn't get the chance to bring down Clockwork.
So it looks like they're going to roll around here. He's going to roll back. Clockwork just going to use his illusion to do a bit of scouting, see what's going on. Now let's have a look at Magnus. Magnus Bottle Arcane's working about halfway to a Blink Dagger. That's going to be that's probably going to be their biggest asset right now. EG will have the much better Alpha Strike. They'll have the Clockwork as well as the Blinking Magnus with the RP. The question is, will they have the follow-up? If they cannot burst down some heroes, and that is Nyx actually gets picked up off in the top lane.
Yeah, so just
one. He copped an arrow.
Yeah, 100%. Marana, maybe a blunt. Oh, he had a good vision here. So he got ward vision that Nyx didn't know he had and was able to, over the trees, get a solid arrow off. So that is going to bring down Bambo, and unfortunately, he's going to actually come on mid lane. Jo is running for his life here, but despite all these retaliatory TPs, they can just go ahead and pop the Moonlight Shadow, all walk away. Going in for the disruption, though, they're not done here yet. There is, of course, a lot of tools at Clockwork's disposal. They're not going to go in. Hani looking for a stun out on the Nyx Assassin, but yeah, they're just kind of trying to get a feel for it, trying to find an opportunity, but that even if they're not getting kills here, it's still Marana doing great up on the top lane, and so far, Trixie has been doing extremely well himself. He can pick up treads if he feels like it, but more likely he's just going to all-out rush to Lincolns, try to get around 17-18 minutes. I
feel like it's the best. Like, I like what they did with the Moonlight Shadow. It's as an initiation tool, it's a bit of a bleedingly obvious giveaway. It's not great as an initiation tool most times, but if you pop it in the middle of a fight and you fade out and you fake a retreat, it's kind of like backing up a hill, popping, backing up and then popping a smoke and wrapping around somebody quickly. It is a very good counter-attack tool. So if you can pull that off in the middle of a fight, it's really good. That said, if we see EG, I mean, EG may actually pick up some counter detection here. It looks like a bit of a game. Oh no, it's just a bird scouting out the top there. They're not actually going to go for a kill. Now, one of the things I do want to mention, though, Anti-Mage definitely not doing too well. He's doing okay. The fact that his Battle Fury is being delayed is not horrendous because he can actually get the same amount of farm because they have Empower. It's only level 1 at the moment, but it's going to stack up. It's going to get there, and it's going to help him farm. So it's going to make up for the fact his Battle Fury is going to be a little bit late and help him keep up to speed. The bigger issue is going to be whether or not Fnatic take this top tower and start putting pressure on that jungle. If he can't find room in that jungle, it's going to be a headache for him to find the gold. Yep.
So they're going to go in. Disruption is not going to work out because of the blink reaction from Fear. But they do have a rotation coming in from the supports. Corey bringing out that Voidstone. Yeah, he is going to get that Battle Fear at a relatively good time. Unfortunately, he's not going to be looking at anything more than a rank 1 in power for quite some time, as Magnus is actually only sitting at level 9. So he's going to be, what, level... he has to put another point in Skewer. It's not going to be until level 12 that he actually will be able to put more into Empower, or prefer to anyways. So Battle Fury will come out about that time, and then Ancient Farming will be really, really good for them. They actually already have a, looks like, triple stack of Ancients, so they're ready to go to get him the farm, but it's going to be a few minutes, and before that, Weaver's going to get amazingly powerful. He's actually, no, he picked up a Wraith Band before finishing out his Lincolns, but he'll be getting the Lincolns up in just another minute or two, and when he does, that's just going to be the time for them to put pressure on Anti-Mage before the Battle Fury comes out, before Magnus gets to his next rank in RP.
Yeah, Weaver has, like, I mean, especially with the negative armor effect from the Bug Swarm, it's actually pretty painful. They can get stuck in there and do a fair amount of damage, especially since it's lineup. Apart from Anti-Mage, they're all pretty low armor in terms of, like, they don't, end up stacking tons and tons of armor. Oh, I suppose Visage, of course, does have the Grave with his cloak in there, but, I mean, they can get rid of, like, Clockwork, because he didn't have the greatest early farm. He's going to be fairly easy to remove during the fight.
Oh, Disruption really Skewer actually gets him back up on the high ground, but there's going to be a Dragon Tail, and although the arrow does not connect, they're still going to be able to get that kill. Fear going to try to clean up one, but just going to be Demonic Purged up. Going to have to blink away. Here comes Bambo to try to bring down Arrow. Will manage it, but Fear on the run. Going to have to hide underneath this tower. No Tail gets shut down. Double kill comes out for Beatus as he KS's one with the Familiar, and he finishes off the other with a Soul Assumption. So nice movement from the birds, from the Nyx, and they're actually punishing quite a bit. Speaking of, Hani trying to turn around on Fear. He won't get it. The last right click. There it is. Going to come in from the Keeper Light to finish the job. Big Illuminate going to go across here. Not going to be enough to get any kills, though. Hani going to get dropped down. Oh my gosh, that Blinding Light. The last right click, he bottles it. He's actually going to get out of this. That's ridiculous. He was taking through so much damage. Just walks away, buys a Lothar's, and Weaver is here to clean it up. Already took down Clockwork, looking for Bambo. Doesn't have Carapace for 5 seconds. Familiar Stone Form, could have been using it, but either way, I don't think Trixie can find more than the... Oh, gets the Familiar kill, that's something. Gonna have to time-lapse out of this one, though. Oh, gets Mana Burn, gets RP'd, he can't do anything here. He actually got killed. So they do actually punish Trixie for jumping on in there. Really wishes he had that Lincolns against the Mana Burn there, but either way, they still got kills that they didn't necessarily expect. The Anti-Mage got dropped down on the high ground, and Dragon Knight walked away, so... Despite losing the Weaver, they actually made some pretty good plays in that fight.
That blinding light, that was the perfect time for it. Threw it in, knocked him away, and that last shot from Visage missed thanks to the blind. That was
blind.
fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah, that was absolutely fantastic there from Keeper, from Fly. But that said, I mean, it was a pretty messy engagement. Both teams come out 8-8. So, I mean, again, still pretty messy engagement. That said, Dragon Knight lived through most of it, but losing Mirana in the middle of that kind of stung. But it looks like she's actually going for a defusal first. That's actually somewhat unorthodox. I don't mind it, though, because it's going to basically, right now, in the fight, Anti-Mage is definitely relying a lot on that Empower for damage. And if you throw that down there, not only is it a good ganking tool, but you can also just wipe that right off.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely is adding a lot more lockdown, and in general, it's just going to provide you so much more right-click damage that Mirana doesn't have available to her. So, she doesn't need the Manta right now. It wouldn't help her in a couple different ways, mostly because of the Magnus just shuts down illusions in 2 seconds anyways. So I think the Defusal is a nice little pickup. It's not going to be the biggest deal one way or another, but it certainly is moving her in the right direction, which is a gank-oriented carry rather than a hard carry. She's not going to be farming creeps. She's going to be farming heroes, and we're actually going to see that come into play with Hani Shadow Blading on up to Bamboo. Going to go for the Dragon Tail once he pops his ultimate off, so guarantees that kill, and then they can use the Corrosive Breath on the tower to bring a lot of gold into their hands there while Trixie maintains the mid.
I want to point out that Fear is actually catching, like that Empower really is helping out a lot. He's up to 83 CS at the moment. He's really catching up. He's only 3 behind Mirana. I mean, he was fair distance behind Mirana before. He's catching up to Dragon Knight as well. Mid tower does get, actually no, that was the top tower. And this is important. That top tower going down is very, very key. Because now they've got rid of that top tower, it's really hard to get the TP and reinforcers in behind them. And they can put pressure. Like, this pretty much cuts off this section of the jungle from Anti-Mage. So he's only got these 3 here, and he's still really got to watch getting jumped in the forest. Because now, if you've always got 3 heroes missing in here, you've got to watch for smoke ganks and getting jumped at that. That said, bottom lane, though, they're jumping in there. Going to try and jump on Demon. The ports are coming in slow. The arrow's going to go out. Nicely timed there. Combo with the ult from No-Tail. No-Tail walks in the cog, though. They will get the kill, though. And now Trixie, he's got the Lincolns. It's going to bounce a spell that gets jumped, though. Takes a ton of damage. Trixie's down. That's costly. That wasn't worth it in the end there.
Yeah.
Trixie, unfortunately, playing a little bit too aggressive. He was also under a ward as well. They could see him.
Yeah, Lincoln Sphere doesn't make him invincible, unfortunately, so he does get dropped down there. It was a really nice arrow, though. Clogger was actually just in the cast animation of using his hookshot to escape to a nearby ally, and that would have pulled him out of that situation completely, but just timed so that the arrow actually prevents that entirely. Good kill, but like you said, not worth it whatsoever when they do commit their best hero. One thing that I do want to mention real quick, though, is that although the CS has picked up back up to Anti-Mage to tie Mirana 95 for 95, when you actually look at GPM and net worth, he's still trailing behind. There's 3 core heroes on Fnatic that are all above the potential of the Anti-Mage, and yes, he will catch up when he gets that quad stack of Ancients, but that's not happening just yet, and the pressure is on.
I would say the reason he's behind GPM is he's 2 towers down comparatively. That would probably be the reason there. They haven't taken any towers yet. Meanwhile, though, bottom lane, potential kill here. No-Tail taking a ton of damage. He's going to, oh, wait, defensive disruption there. Quickly sends, Courier is in danger still. I'm not sure what they're doing with that. Going to move it in, but they will lose No-Tail. Take the Visage out at the same time, though. And a blink out there from, I think, Magnus. Arrow comes in, though. Going to hit Bambo. He's got Carapace, so Flame Breath comes in. They need to pop Starfall before. There we go. He gets it off just in time. Before he gets the Starfall off just in time. Before he can come out of that and Carapace his way to victory. Anti-Mage, though, 100 gold shy of his Battle Fury, and that's when things start to get out of control. I really don't think EG are where they need to be. Rather, Fnatic are where they need to. I feel like they need to be more aggressive before this point. I really would have liked them to, put significant damage on this tier 2. Tier 1 mid should be gone by now, because Anti-Mage is really going to hit his stride pretty soon. The fact that, Battle Fury has definitely been delayed, but he didn't rush it straight up. He did get the treads first. And of course, he was up against the Trial, and at the same time, that has slowed down Mirana's farm, and he's always got the Empower available. So, I mean, he's got a fairly big damage boost from that already. Yeah. And that bothers me a lot.
I definitely agree with a lot of the points you're making, but, actually, RP going to be able to get a solo kill on No-Tail, just bursting him down really quickly, and there's not really too much they can do about it now that Jo has his Blink Dagger. I think that's actually as relevant to their team lineup as the Battle Fury is, just because Jo can actually now jump in and get a sudden initiation off. There's no delay in him jumping in and being able to get that RP off, means there's no way that they can react with quick spells like Leap or Disruption. So that's going to be a really key thing to try to lock down heroes like Weaver, who thrive on not being disabled. But when it comes down to it, even though there's a blink on Magnus, even though there's a Battle Fury up on Anti-Mage, I feel that the tri-core aspect of Fnatic is still going to overwhelm them. I mean, Mirana has gotten good farm, and she's a semi-carrier herself, and then Weaver and Dragonite having carry steroids, setting themselves up with high net worth values. I really think that they have just so much potential. On top of that, when it comes down to 5v5 later on in the game, they have both a time-lapse for a second life on Weaver, and they have the recall so they can buy back a hero and bring them back into the fight. That's essentially a 7v5 if you think about it that way. But, well, obviously it comes down to if those spells get off. Of course, Wombo combo initiation with EG having crazy, or Fear having crazy cleave. We've seen it before where heroes can get like one shot in the scope of a single RP. That could be something that we would really set the tone and make sure that EG can take this game away. So I think both teams have a great opportunity, but it really comes down to how the fights proceed.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point. The team fight potential for EG is definitely there. That said, Fnatic, I think the game plan is going to be pretty much they're going to put Hanny up front and then just like have him solo push, like try and bait out that RP. They're going to need to stay spread. They clump up, they've gimped themselves. They really need to avoid that. But often we see the Dragonite, especially when they're doing the early pushes, the Dragonite will just go screw it, run up front, and then start hitting the tower. And this isn't especially since the buff to his level 2 Dragon form, the fact he can go level 2 Dragon form and still get the corrosion for the pushing is a very big deal. Because before that mid game push wasn't as good because he'd have to sit in either level 1 or go for the level 2 Dragon and miss out on the push power. But now we were just skulking away from the bottom lane. They might need some backup here to defend this.
But that was just a Smoke Ink attempt to bring him down, and unfortunately they just couldn't. Actually, the only one with smoke left is Nyx, and that just got dispelled. So yeah, Trixie just using Shikuchi, maneuvering around and juking in the trees, and they weren't able to pin him down, which is pretty surprising considering they have the blank, they have the hook shot. But it just didn't work out. Maybe go for an arrow. They're going to go for a Dragon Tail arrow. He blinks to the south. This is really bad for Fear right here, charging up the Illuminate. A lot of damage coming on through. The arrow will connect, and that will be the death of the Anti-Mage. Dominating spree for Hani as he takes the last hit, and that finishes his Heaven's Halberd. I was going to talk about this, but this is a huge pickup versus AM. He cannot Manta out of this anymore. They changed that, so essentially, because he doesn't have a BKB, there's going to be a period of time guaranteed where he cannot auto-attack, and that's obviously going to inhibit his potential in the team fight.
That's going to be a long time. I mean, he's not only is he going to get Manta, there's mass stuns, but there's Blinding Light too, and he's not doing Manta. Like, look, he's going for a Vitality booster. He's rushing hard.
I mean, he needs, I don't think he's rushing hard. He has to get some HP to survive through what we just saw. But if he goes for Heart, I think it's going to be a huge mistake. He's probably just going for casual VIP booster, then transition up to Manta, and that would be the best choice considering his allocation of gold.
I would almost say bugger the... If you're not rushing the Heart, I would say bugger the VIP booster and get an Ogre Club. It's only 60 less health, but it builds straight into the BKB, which would fix the issues with Blinding Light, and I'm pretty sure you can BKB your way out of the Heaven's Halberd, possibly.
I know he can prevent it. I'm not sure about eliminating it, but I absolutely agree. The BKB, compared to even getting a portion of Heart, would be really helpful for them to actually try to survive through this.
I mean, it looks like they're doing a recall up top. Oh, Arrow trying to be recalled, but he gets jumped by Nyx. Nyx is, you know what? I'm probably not going to kill you, but let me just disrupt that. Unfortunately, he may end up regretting this. There's the Dragon Tail. Arrow going to come out, and that's the end. That's all she wrote. I don't know if he knew Hanny was there. Hanny, of course, having the Shadow Blade has really good initiation potential there as well. Not quite as good as the Magnus, but still good. It looks like we've got to combat down bottom Blaze.
Yeah, they get the disruption off. There's a hook shot coming in, but does not actually stun anybody out. If Trixie can get out of this, they can just walk away, but it's going to be Fear running on out of there. He does get the beetles off. Meanwhile, on the northern end, Hani was able to jump on through. I think that was the second recall that brought him there. A little quick for a TP. Either way, he helps to clean up the Clockwork, who had just come in to help out the Anti-Mage, but wasn't actually able to accomplish too much at all.
Yeah, it was definitely a recall because his scroll isn't on cooldown. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait, there is a spectator bug. I mean, it could have been a scroll. He does have the Shadow Blades. I mean, he can rush his way up there, but I'm going to assume it was a recall because it's more likely in this case. Meanwhile, though, Anti-Mage, and this is it. When you're not, if you can't take a fight as Anti-Mage, you just go on split push, and this is very good from Fear. Putting pressure on this mid tower. Oh, no, Arrow! Arrow lands. Fear regretting this, although the port gets cancelled. And he'll get away. That was a Dragonite porting in too. I'm pretty sure Nyx came through. Oh, no, it was the Birds. The Birds came through there, cancelling that port.
Yeah, that's a
Visage
really big
saving
stun
the
farm.
day.
That should have been a dead anti-mage. The timing of it, that arrow was just long enough. I think he could have shift queued the stun, and the fact that that was cancelled 100% saved his life, so props to Visage there. I haven't seen too much of him throughout the game, to be honest. Like, it's some good micro here and there, but in general not working out. They dropped the Sentry Ward, but alert Bambos to its presence immediately. Not actually able to make this happen. Jo looking for an opportunity for the RP, instead gets stunned up, and that's already a blue dragon coming out. Only 25 minutes in, he's already big, blue, ready to rumble, dropping down Bambo very quickly. He doesn't even have a stun, he's just going to die right here. Too Trixie. And with that, they might even be able to clean up Beatus. I do hear Anti-Mage, though, trying to do what he can. Clockwork's going to be the next one to drop. Anti-Mage to blink away. And, yeah, he will survive, but only picking off a single Shadow Demon in the midst of confusion.
I mean, if there's anything helping out EG, it's the fact that their supports, and for the most, they were ahead. Shadow Demon has actually picked up a couple extra levels, but of course, Nyx picking up level 11. The level 2 Vendetta is a pretty big deal. Not only is the damage significantly better, but it's more the duration. It means he can scout and put a lot more pressure. It makes it a lot harder for them to split push or just sort of try and put pressure on them around the map. As we saw earlier, Era trying to do some business up top and then immediately gets attacked by the Nyx and stunned out of a relocate. But with these 3 heroes down, they can put a ton of damage on this tower here, getting drilled down by the level 3 dragon as well as the other 2 heroes there as well. They will manage to snag the tower, but they won't be able to push the whole thing. They will have to back off there as he is only 26 minutes in, so the cooldown on death is pretty low for the moment. Mirana, though, immediately porting top, will bring down the creep wave and just counter push that. And the question is, can they sneak a Roche fairly soon? They might be able to manage it. They can pick off, if they can pick off Magnus, I think they can go for a Roshan.
Yeah, they have to pick up Magnus, though. I don't think it's a risk they need to take in any other circumstance there. Bambo gonna have his second rank in Vendetta, so he will have plenty of time to unleash hell on fly. Gonna drop him down, but there's a mechanism to keep him up and kicking. Is there gonna be an anti-mage to clean it up? Yes, 2 right clicks, all it takes to finish him off, and Hani's out of mana. Cannot Shadow Blade away, but luckily there is gonna be the disruption. Gonna be a hook shot, though, successfully locking down No Tail, and that's a second kill on the board for EG. They desperately need these kills to work for them, and so far so good. Now they actually might be able to take a Roche themselves, as you were mentioning it. If they empower up the Anti-Mage, they could obliterate Roshan, but it looks like they want to put Tier 1 pressure out first, and I'm not sure if that's really the best call. Aegis is going to go to Fnatic pretty soon if EG doesn't get their paws on it.
And there we go. In fact, Anti-Mage is indeed going to go for the Mana Style. And you mentioned it, casual Vitality Boost, just one of the life edits, so he will go for that and then pick up the Mana Style next. It's probably going to be about a 30-minute Mana Style at this rate, which, I mean, 30-minute Mana Style, casual Vitality Boost, as you've seen Arrow land on Bambo, nobody there to follow it up, though. And then you get the Manda at 30 minutes along with the Battle Fury. That's not bad. I mean, considering his farm was pretty garbage at the start, that's a pretty good recovery for Anti-Mage.
Absolutely, but it's going to take a lot more time before he actually feels comfortable in going for the full engagement. Do you think he needs both the Manta and the BKB, or just needs a really good Magnus initiation?
I think he can get away without the BKB for the moment. The fact that if Kiefer hangs back and tries to hit him with a blinding light, if he can Manta out of that, he'll have the time to do a ton of damage. So I think that's going to work out. But it comes down to Magnus or Clockwork landing the big initiations, which is definitely possible. On the other hand, though, Dragonite is getting us fairly close to an Assault Grass. He's picked up the Hyperstone, and he's got enough for the Plate Mail right now, so he's only about 1,500 away from finishing that, as he picks up a nice stack of Ancients there.
Yeah, those Dragons just give so much gold. He's actually going to be skyrocketing towards that item very, very rapidly, and I honestly think just now, based on that Dragonite's actually cleared more Ancient stacks than the Anti-Mage, which is the opposite of what needs to be happening for EG, since they do have the Empower along with that Battle Fury. Either way, though, that Dragonite is just really, he's building an anti-AM build. He's like, okay, well, your weakness is you don't take much magic damage, but you take full physical damage. We'll reduce your armor with AC. We'll disarm you with the Heaven's Halberd so you can't auto-attack. And then, most importantly, can get the initiation stun off with that Shadow Blade. So, from there, they just have so many different ways to screw Fear over with just this one hero. And then you add that up with the damage they have applied from all directions, and it's just not looking good for EG right now. They need a big play, a big, big Magnus RP.
Well, there's a big stack of Ancients going down there. That's triple Dragon stack there, and Fear going to get a ton of cash out of that. Now, Weaver, though, picks... Oh, this is going to be painful. Weaver, like you mentioned, that negative armor, it stings, and he picks up a Desolator, so that's really going to hurt. At the same time, though, Anti-Mage is getting quite fat. I'm pretty sure he's... There we go. 29.5 minutes Mana Style. It's done. That's good. That is really good for them. But, on the other hand, like you mentioned, he's going to be up against the Heaven's Halberd, which, A, it's annoying because it can disarm him. B, the other irritating factor is that, you know, he's not generally a hero that finds a Monkey King bar in there, so he's always going to have to contend with that. Yeah. With the mischance. Going against the DK can be quite frustrating. And I mean, any time you spend against DK, it's more time for somebody else to walk in with a stun against you. It's really, really painful. Who set down to the... Wow.
Yeah, I'm not even sure how that happened there. It looks like there was just a quick blink and skewer to evade a gank coming from bot lane. Magnus very, very extended, but still was able to escape, so no harm done.
Gets away there. Let's see, Clockwork picks up a Blade Mail, and against this lineup, I mean, this could work. The Blade Mail is going to cause a ton of damage if you get it in the right position. I mean, right now, it's almost getting to the point where Keeper Light cannot use Illuminate in a fight. Because between Carapace and Blade Mail, he's going to take roughly, what, 900 pure damage in return?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's more health that he has.
Yeah. That is pretty ridiculous as far as how much it can reduce it, and that means that he does have to be extremely cautious about what he does, but even if he's just standing there blinding lighting, he's still gonna, and mechanisming, he's still gonna be attributing a lot more than some of the heroes, so it kind of feels like they have a lot going for them right here, and the big thing is that negative armor we were kind of talking about. -7 from the Desolator, -5 from the Assault Cuirass, and Anti-Mage is only sitting here at 14.
And bugs.
And yeah, two right clicks from the Beetles, and suddenly Anti-Mage is sitting at 0 armor mitigation. When you compare that to the effective health of a fucking Dragonite with almost 40 armor and 25% evasion, I mean, this is just no comparison. These guys are just able to survive through so much more punishment than that of the Anti-Mage. And now that this tier 3 is down on the bottom lane, that gives the opening for them to just go and hammer down on the racks. They're going to start it off, but they're not going to be able to do any damage to Hani. And he's just going to be a stand deliver.
A mech too. The Dire do not have a mech. There we are. RP in. That's painful. Lands 2 there. And look at Mirana. And Keeper... Oh, just Keeper Light, rather. Just gets absolutely obliterated. It was a bunch of illusions. I thought it was Mirana, but never mind. Looks like they will keep the pressure on, though. The Bug's getting sent in there. And they've lost Keeper, but they actually can't counterattack with Moonlight Shadow because they have a gem on Magnus. And I think that's a smart buy there from JR because this means they can keep maintaining their map control.
Oh my gosh, is he actually going to get away? Shadow Blade is going to come out. He dodges the shockwave. He might... Oh, no, they were able to blink... I had the gem. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't even realize I had a gem the whole time. I thought he was dodging out with Invis, but either way, right here, they do clean up Dragonite. He was trying to hide out in the base, but no such opportunity to juke from that kind of position. Didn't have mana for a TP, so... Yeah, that fight seemed okay at first for the Dragonite, being just up in front, trying to say, hey, come at me, focus me down. Oh, actually, not stun on Fear here. But the problem was they tried to take the high ground without the Aegis the Immortal, and along with that, they clumped up enough that JO got an amazing RP off, and yeah, Fear's Empower Battle Fury just doing work. However, there is going to be a quick pick off on the Clockwork from Trixie, and now, actually, Fear not in a great spot. A lot of right-click damage coming from that Desolator. Although they will actually pop off the link as they try to burn Weaver down. Right-clicks finish off the Shadow Demon, and they're actually going to be able to bring down Trixie as well. So really, really good cleanup for them, and that should be enough to give them the Roshan, but it doesn't seem like they want to give it away just yet. Of course, they can just arrow into the pit at the very least. They're kind of holding the position. Era on the Mirana, he can always... Actually, I'm not even sure about that arrow, but almost connects nevertheless.
Oh, close.
Either way, really, it's really, really easy for Fnatic to Rosh with RP down. It's very, very difficult for EG to do so whenever you have that Illuminate coming on through. Yes, you mentioned the Blade Mail, the Carapace, but you're still taking the damage from everybody but the Nyx Assassins, so it's actually pretty hard for EG to feel confident in that position if you can just keep on spamming away from the Keeper Light.
I'm going to say this, I really think that they need to keep... Like, Fly needs to stay the hell back. Like, he got caught out by the RP big time. He should not have been standing pretty much on top of the high ground here. Well, I can't draw because we're paused, but he was on the ramp. He shouldn't have been there. And he should have been hanging back and waiting for Anti-Mage to come in. And when Anti-Mage comes in, knock him around with Blinding Light, just basically be a huge pest and be there for the mech and all that sort of stuff. And the thing was, also, Mirana wasn't there as well. She was a long way off as well. They were missing a lot of their heroes. They didn't actually take that for a 5v5, and they let themselves get picked apart. And again, over here, like as we saw a few heroes, Weaver and that, they were going in one by one, getting picked off one at a time. That's a pretty big issue that they were letting that happen. They need to make sure that they don't allow that, because they're much stronger as a unit. If they stay apart, it just lets Anti-Mage just roll all over him. And I should mention, he has a heart now as well.
Yeah.
He's getting huge.
Yeah, they needed to put more focus on the Anti-Mage pre-heart. Actually, Carapace, no, gonna Vendetta it. I'm gonna be able to sneak away from that arrow. So, yeah, the Rosh is still up and active. They don't want to get caught inside a Rosh pit RP. But I really feel like Fnatic should have been putting more pressure out on Fear before that heart, trying to focus him down at the beginning of the fight so that they don't have to, at least can make him blink away at a quarter of his HP and never want to jump back into it. But in this position here, he has the heart now. He has a lot of HP to work with, and he might not be able to go toe-to-toe with Dragonite, but if he just picks off the supports early, EG can just take it 5 versus 3.
Indeed, I'd say both throw down. Both teams throwing down counter wards there. Nick's possibly going to walk into this again. I mean, there we go. Oh, he was thinking about it. Was a little bit too far away. He already walked into one. And in fact, they're going to sweep around. This is smart from EG, or possibly giving themselves away there. So will actually Fear just jump straight on in, then jump straight on out. As now Nick's moving in, he's going to get spotted up. There's a ward down there from the dire side. Spot Bambo now getting hit by the Carapace, and the arrow goes in, collects Fear. That's painful, as they will already pick off Keeper as well as Shadow Demon. And it looks like EG are on the warpath here, and Fnatic going to have to back down. Handy now trying to get away. Familiar's going to stun him down. There is no follow-up, though, at the moment, although Vendetta now moving in. I don't think they go... Oh, will they actually? No, Trixie staying a little bit too deep. They land the stun there on Jared. Leap away. Mirana just escaping. Bugs getting tossed through again. Trixie really needs to be careful. They have a gem. He really needs to worry about this. Carapace, again, saving his life there on the second gem and attack, and Bambo will manage to walk away. But they are working on Roshan this whole time as well. Fear is in there, and it's now 3v5. I don't think they can do this. I don't think they can counterattack it. Arrow comes through, just misses Bambo yet again. But this is an Aegis for Fear.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any question about it.
Yeah, he's been looking for it for quite some time. They still want to contest it. They want to try to go for a grab. They need to time-lapse out of here immediately. Trixie taking a lot of harassment. They are going to be able to fall back, but right into a wall of anti-mages here. Going to try to bring right-click him down very, very quickly. The gem taking its time to get to the battlefield, though. They can't stay on top of Weaver. Trixie's still on the run. There is that hook shot to lock down Trixie. He dies as well. The Magnus will drop down. Honey at least got that trade-off, but getting the gem still in the hands of evil geniuses. If they can escape from this, they're still happy to bring down Trixie.
I mean, Demon's trying to get out here. He gets hit by a Dragon Tail. I don't think he's getting away. The Dragon Form is up for a good while there, and he will go down, giving away the gem at last. They can at least get some map control down now. But at the same time, the Aegis on Fear is a huge headache, and this is going to buy EG a lot of time. I mean, sure, they lost 3 heroes there, but at the same time, they already picked off a ton of Fnatic heroes. They picked off 3 in return, and one of them was, of course, Weaver.
Still, in general, EG feels a lot more confident about their position than they did 10 minutes ago. They have the Aegis on the Anti-Mage, and my goodness did that fight work out perfectly for them. They had some good ward coverage, were able to jump in where they needed to, and that low to high ground double Impale coming out from the Nyx Assassin set up everything. I mean, during that Impale, it was almost enough that the Anti-Mage Illusions right-clicked down the supports. They were just gone in seconds. And there was some nice arrows coming on out, but Era just not able to actually bring anybody down, unfortunately. So that's kind of the one issue with Fnatic right now, is they need a little bit of extra oomph. The Desolator, the AC, it helps, but it's not sealing the deal just yet. So they're trying to focus on the right targets, but
major item.
More and more tankiness comes out for EG. Get the BKB up on the Magnus, and Fear still with that heart. He's going to get a lot of armor and possibly evasion if he picks up Butterfly next.
The problem is, like, they're missing now. Like, Mirana doesn't hit that hard yet. Same for Dragon. Like, he's got the AC, hits pretty quickly, but he needs he needs a crit or something, because at the moment he's only swinging. He's swinging for sub 200 damage still. Same for Mirana. She's not hitting that hard just yet compared to the Anti-Mage, who's swinging for 250, 260, and you factor in he's got 2 illusions burning you at the same time. That's really, really hurtful. The only person on Fnatic's side right now doing significant damage, like on his own, is Weaver. And it's to be expected. Like, Mirana obviously didn't get the greatest farm to start, but that's a Dragon Knight has gone for sort of the anti-mage builds, but at the same time, it's sort of losing effectiveness as anti-mage is starting to scale up in items very quickly, and now he has an Aegis to boot.
Yeah, he's just in a great position here. I mean, the Aegis won't last forever. It's only going to be about 4 more minutes, and I'm not sure if they actually want to play more aggressively as a result of that, or if they just want to say, okay, Fear, you can farm more securely because you have a second life at your disposal. But either way, in this position, they need to get a little bit more control over their map. They still, as far as I know, have the gem. No, actually went to Era after he did pick off, I think, Nyx Assassin was who he cleaned up solo in the midst of that combat session. But either way, he gets the gem himself, and EG, they're just trying to force him out so that they can actually maintain map control.
Yeah, the gem went from Magnus had it, dropped it, got picked off. They picked it up on Clockwork. Clockwork tried to recover, and then obviously got hit in the face by Era and died pretty quickly after that. So I mean, I like the like they've given it to Mirana. I think because she's pretty survivable. But the main thing is Dragon Knight really just does not have room for it right now. The fact he's getting a BKB, this is definitely going to help a fair bit. And because he's not going to have to worry. I mean, this has been an issue. I feel like almost Weaver should get the BKB as well. Because the issue has not so much been Anti-Mage dishing out. Like, Anti-Mage obviously hits really hard. The RP is a pain in the butt too. But after the RP, they get stuck in cogs. They get hit by Battery Assault, gets impaled, gets hit by Familiar stuns. It's the chain stuns and disables that are really, really affecting Fnatic's ability to bring sort of their tri-core lineup into effect. They're always being disabled really, really hard. So if they get the BKB on Weaver, as well as DK. I think they'll be looking pretty good. Mirana obviously would like a BKB, but at the same time, she's fairly handy, can sort of play a very good standoff game, and she tends to sort of hang around the back of the fight regardless, so she's not really getting focused hard by those stuns.
Yeah.
So I think she can, for the moment, can get away without one, and can just go for some massive, like, can go for something like a Monkey King, but just get some really, really big damage in there, especially since I'm kind of expecting Anti-Mage to pick up a Butterfly at some point. By the way, he's seeing a 5k gold. This is really getting quite disgusting.
That's what happens when you just keep on farming away, and that's going to be continuing to be the case if they just continue to have control of the Radiant jungle here. They have that Aegis, they're going to go in, they're going to try to get a gank off here over by the Ancients, but they need to have everybody grouped up together, and right now they're just not confident about it. So spreading out a bit, but they do have some pretty good control over the jungle at the very least. One thing to mention, we haven't covered it yet, but Visage, although he's been saving all game long, he has picked up a very, very big item, and that's the Aghanim Scepter, giving a third familiar to his pool. So if you consider a really, really great RP, and then you stack on 3 stuns from the familiars after the fact that hits every single target that got reverse polarity'd, that is gonna be actually like the end-all be-all of the fight if they can actually make that work.
Yeah, when you land like 8 seconds of stun, I don't care, it doesn't matter who you are, you're gonna get wrecked. So I mean, this just makes the BKBs even more important. But that said, I mean, the BKBs are going to be great, but they will need to have them up and running before they get hit by the RP. I mean, they can afford one hero to get... So if they can force Magnus to try and like RP a single hero like the Dragon Eye if he just runs up front, they can if they can force it out, that'll work, because they can defensive disruption whoever gets targeted by that. But at the same time, it's getting to the point where Dragon Eye can't do that sort of 1v5 thing anymore because Fear hits so bloody hard.
Coming on in, we're going to see the fight break out. Hani is in a terrible spot. He was Shadowbladed up, but the Assault Karas showed his presence to the Nyx Assassin. They found him. He pops the BKB, trying to go for a kill here on Bambo. Is going to be able to finish him off very, very quickly. Popping off the Moonlight Shadow. The arrow only hits on an illusion. There's going to be a Lincoln's popped off by Trixie, but otherwise in pursuit of the Visage here. We're going to look at Jo. She's going for the Blink RP. Is going to connect onto 3 heroes on the low ground. Fear doing so much damage, finishing off Hani. Looking for more as they're skewered right into his welcoming hands. He's going to be able to get a double, a triple kill, cleaning it up so nicely. And despite even being mana leaked up, he just keeps on maneuvering around, getting all the kills. Man, that was just great setup from the Magnus. And the fight, of course, started off the way they wanted it to. Finding out Hani, forcing him to pop off his BKB early, and just trying to fight by himself. So they were able to start it off very, very nicely, but certainly was finished when Jo and Fear combined their forces together.
Oh, definitely. Right now, the mana burn is actually becoming a pretty big issue for Dragon Knight, because the Dragon Knight, the way he wants to play, he's pretty reliant on A, his spells, and B, his items. It's not like Anime just jumps in, Manta style, and then just right-click everything to death. He's really reliant on A, the Dragon Tail, and B, he needs to reposition constantly during the fight as well with the Shadow Blade. Not being able to do those multiple times during a fight is a pretty big blow, and just, like you even saw, like they tried to help him out in the middle of the fight. When he got trapped in the cogs, they tried to give him the mana, so from chakra, so he could just turn around and flame breath them or hit them with a stun or go invisible, but you know, he just lost all of his mana straight away to all of the illusions just burning him down. It's serious. It's a serious problem. Between the mana burn from Nyx and then the mana break from Fear, he just doesn't have enough mana to stay active in these fights.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you mentioned, but Heaven's Halberd also costs 100, so if you're going to get the utility out of that, that's huge. Yeah, either way, focus down very, very early on in that. He, surprisingly, despite being the tankiest hero by far, just wasn't able to contribute to that team fight as a result, because just the way it started off. And, of course, you know, his entire team being handed on a silver platter over to Fear doesn't really help their case either. So they're going to have to play it a little bit different. They're going to go for maybe the next Roche and try to fight that as appropriately as possible. But for right now, they are up against a very, very farmed Anti-Mage. I mean, this is at least 4 perfectly late game luxury items. He just needs BOTs and one more thing, and he is pretty much all set. I'm guessing a Butterfly, but who's to say?
Yeah, I would like to see the Butterfly, or that, or obviously, you know, yeah, the Butterfly would be nice. That said, I mean, he doesn't. I was going to say Vlad's, but that said, with the lineup he's got, I mean, you could just say Magnus, go and get that for me.
Sure. Yeah, he needs somebody else to pick that up. There's no way that you want to be a late game Anti-Mage carrying a 2,000 gold item, but either way, so I'm a little bit of split push going up on the top tier 2. Going to be able to bring that down quickly, but EG just going to answer back with their own push down on bottom, and it looks like Fnatic isn't going to it's just going to try to play chicken with them. They're not going to fall back until they know that the enemy has separated their forces. And actually going in right now, they're technically 5 versus 2, and if this arrow connects, it could be a really big deal, but fortunately for EG, they know exactly what's coming. So it's just going to be some damage on the tower. Desolator, Assault Karas burning down the tower quickly, but even faster is Fear with these familiars at his side. So now TPing back, they're going to go for this very, very quick fight. We're going to be looking on Magnus. It's all about him. all about him popping off the BKB, blinking in, and guaranteeing a very powerful RP. If they can get that, then the fight's over already. So looking at Fnatic, they're just going to have to fall back because now that they know they're up 5 versus 5, they're just not comfortable with that kind of engagement.
It was pretty good. I mean, you saw how wide they were split. Fnatic, though, it was a little bit, at one point in their Trixie got way too close. And like, these two heroes, like, they need to keep. Trixie, Era, and Hanny need to stay the hell apart. They come close to each other. That's just, even two of them together, they're going to lose, 66% of their firepower to just Magnus jumping on them and then getting wrecked.
They're actually going to get him here. They get the Dragon Tail off. They're going to be able to follow it up with everything. Fear going to farm the creep wave here. They actually managed with the Moonlight Shadow. They thought that they retreated in full, but just turned it right back on around, and now they can go in deep. Fear does have buyback, but they're going to force it here because they don't want him to get that next big item. They don't want him to have that butterfly. Actually going for Beetles, trying to scout out towards Jo. He's just going to TP back to safety to make sure he can't be picked off. Either way, the racks are going to get hammered on very, very quickly, and it looks like they're going to have to let it fall. Like, if they were going to buy back, they should have done it now. Now they're going to jump on in, but that hesitation cost them some HP on the racks, and I don't think they're going to be able to retaliate. Bambo's on the front line. They do have Blink as well. Going on to Era here. They will be able to lock down at least one, but he has that leap. He uses the Manta. He's going to be safe and sound running on away with the phase boots, so too much movement speed. They cannot actually pick somebody off. And, yeah, just cost them a ton of cash. When you consider the death cost, I mean, that was almost 750 gold, unreliable for the death, and then adding in 1650 for that buyback.
Now they've got the Monkey King armor. I want to say that was some amazing restraint of Fnatic's, but you saw how fast, that was just Weaver alone hitting that rack. Saw how fast it was dropping with the negative armor. It was really good that they did not. Like, it would have been, like, huge, like, it was a huge temptation to see everybody get in there, hit that racks, drop that melee racks really quickly. But the thing is, they were waiting for, like, e.g., if they'd done that, it would have been an RP, a hook shot, everybody dies, and it was 3 seconds for Animage to TP in.
Yeah.
All of 3 seconds. So it was really smart that only Weaver went in there to force the buyback. Otherwise, that would have been a team wipe, and quite easily they lose the mid racks, or Rana has to buy back and she loses the Monkey King bar.
Yeah, that would explain the hesitation there. I was looking at Anti-Mage, I'm like, okay, well, they don't want the racks to be chipped away, so I figured he would have bought back about 3 or 4 seconds earlier, but those mind games there actually play a very, very big part. Now, we do see continuous pressure up on the top lane, but simultaneously, the Roshan is going to get dropped down. Another Aegis for Fear, and yeah, he had 2 lives, dropped it down to 1 with the buyback, and now he can come back in swinging with that second one available. So it's a very difficult position for Fnatic to be in. They do have the tools at their disposal to manage, but it's going to be all about them maneuvering and positioning themselves appropriately in the next engagement. What certainly helps that is the double 4-staff pickup. The Keeper Light and Shadow Demon both got them simultaneously, and that puts them well on their way to actually being able to maneuver in the engagements.
Here's the thing, though. The Aegis, it's a double-edged sword. This late in the game, Anti-Mage, sure, he gets the Aegis, but now he can't split push. So they've got to... This forces the 5v5s for them. Or, they can't, alright, we'll sort of defend us 4, and then Anti-Mage pushes and then TP's back. They can't do that anymore because he's got no room. Yeah. So they're going to have to... And this opens up Fnatic to get mobile and start doing their own split pushing and generally being aggro. That said, they need to be careful because, obviously, with the long-range initiation from Magnus as well as Clockwork, and then, of course, Nyx being aggravating as ever, they really need to be careful about that. But still... And this does give them some options, and of course they do have the mobility with relocate. Now again, Trixie trying to force some maneuvers here. And in fact, who's that? Fear. And, he does have the room for a TP. He's actually dropped an item there as they jump in. And so they're going to jump in with a hook shot now. Oh no, Hattie taking damage. RP comes in, catching No Tail as well as Fly, charging them back in with Skewer. Hattie though, not taking too much damage. He's healed up quite significantly. Nobody down just yet from either side. There we go. Anti-Mage is down. Buyback from Nyx. He has to jump back in. Magnus is down as well. They've taken the racks. Fnatic blow this game wide open. Fear now getting hammered. Fear is down. He shouldn't have buyback. This could be a sweep. Mirana's still up. The damage from that Monkey King bar is far too much. And the negative armor. Anti-Mage gets dropped so damn hard. And now a sweep is going to come in. They can just go sweep the bottom racks. That's 2 raxes. A 5-man down. I don't think they have any buyback to speak of. Butterfly. GG is called. Fnatic with 1 fell swoop. Blaze, that is game, set, match.
It is indeed. That was just really, really well done by them. They barely lost anything there. Like, they just went in, and despite getting a double RP off and skewering them into the mix of things, the big thing, Anti-Mage couldn't get an ultimate off, so that set it up so that if he couldn't get the Mana Void, suddenly they didn't get that huge burst of damage all at once. They could have taken down not only supports, but anybody in that mix of things, since they were all so clustered. But on top of that, the timing of that BKB from the Dragon Knight. He BKB before he got disabled, right before he got abyssalled, and then from there, they didn't have the means to prevent him from using his halberd, from using his stuns, for using all his abilities, and he just right-clicked away. So they had 3 core heroes, dished out a ton of damage. Monkey King Bar, Butterfly, the Desolate, the Assault Cross, all of this converged into this one point where Anti-Mage couldn't make a mistake. And unfortunately, when they went in and they had the lockdown they needed, they just completely blew that open. So yeah, they thought that they had the opportunity with the Aegis of the Immortal, but when it came down to it, great positioning from Fnatic and huge right-click damage from that tri-core lineup. They, take it away in one fell swoop.
I've got to say, I agree. Like, the fact that BKB from Dragonite, that was huge. If he didn't get that BKB off, that fight would have been completely different. But the fact is, I mean, the fact that he got the BKB off, didn't lose his mana, and then Anti-Mage jumped him and tried to kill him. He's got 40-something armor, throwing a mech in there on top of it. There's no, like, even if he's like, Anti-Mage is swinging for like 330, 340 damage, you're looking at, what, a 60-70% damage reduction. You've got to hit him so many times to bring him down. He was just laughing at it. And on top of that, no Monkey King Bar, 25% evasion. He has so much effective health because you don't have the assault. You have no negative armor effects on EG's side, not even anything like a medallion. No skills that do it, so it just could not cut through the Dragonite's armor at all. And the fact that their firepower, all of their firepower is in Anti-Mage, and it was focusing the biggest single brick in Fnatic's arsenal. I think that was probably the wrong choice. The fact that they tried to jump the Dragon, I really feel with the BKB up, they should have gone for Mirana or anybody else. They should try to pick up Mirana, Weaver, anybody who was vulnerable was the big deal.
Yeah.
But Dragonite, it was, to quote Jesse, it's a retard magnet, Kyle, and it worked.
Oh, it did indeed. It worked very, very well there. So, I mean, once you pop off the Blink, the Abyssal, you have to kind of commit to the guy that you're stuck in with. I think he might have even been cogged in with him. One way or another, he was face-to-face with that DK. He right-clicked, but it wasn't enough. A dodge or two, especially with the armor, it just easily made it so that Hani could just survive through what he needed. And this time, they focused the wrong guy. And, although the RP was rather good, it wasn't what they needed. And from there, it really, really did work out for Fnatic. So, nicely done. They take it away. They take down Anti-Mage twice over, and they take the game 100%. So 32-24, a back-and-forth game, a very interesting match between Fnatic and EG, but the end result is Fnatic will be going up against Virtus Pro in the grand final in approximately 1 hour, and then we'll be also looking at EG going up against Roxkiss here in a few minutes.
I want to close this out saying that when did EG last throw does not need an update. Nope. Fnatic played well. EG played pretty well as well. I mean, considering they went up against a defensive Trine that was actually causing them a lot of grief, they did pretty well. But as it is, a tri-core lineup was just better in the end. This is not a throw for all you people yelling in the chat right now. This is just it's just a good game of Dota.
Yeah, it really was. I was impressed from both sides, but the way it worked out, I was impressed by drafting and by the playstyle. I think that Fnatic kept up the aggression at the right times. I think the time period between Hard and Vit Booster, maybe they should have put a little bit more pressure on the Anti-Mage, but as a whole, they got a lot of kills on him, and although he still managed to farm an amazing 459 CS, and quite a few Ancients as well, in general, the pressure from Fnatic forced us to that, although Fear was very, very, very big, it wasn't 6-slotted, and that's where they were able to take him down. So, nicely done. Good game. Well played. Fnatic are the ones to finish this off here. So, again, moving on into the grand finals, they will be in 1 hour. Next game, though, is going to be Evil Geniuses versus Roxkiss in just a few minutes. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This has been the Premier League Season 5 Daedalus Cup, and we'll be going on into the next game in just a few minutes.